Hi everyone, my name is Pratima Rodriguez and I'm the founder of Trubay India. Trubay is India's first Indian-owned, homegrown workshop and retreat organizer, bringing senior, top and international yoga teachers to India since Jan 2019. Thank you everybody for joining in. Welcome to episode 6 of Conversations Beyond Asanas with Deepika Mehta. Before I add Deepika, I would like to read out her short introduction for those who missed the first part. Deepika Mehta turned to yoga after a near-death rock climbing accident from 40 feet, which left her struggling to walk and bedridden for almost 2 years. She found hope in yoga teachings and eventually used the practice to help overcome her injuries. Today, she is one of the most successful and sought-after Ashtanga Yoga teachers in India. Acknowledged the world over for her contribution to yoga, she has contributed in a significant way in popularizing Ashtanga Yoga in India. She has had an enviable client list that includes the who's who of India, from Bollywood divas to several top industrialists and CEOs. Whether training Bollywood's elite or the everyday yogi, Deepika promotes the highest standard of Ashtanga Yoga, helping her students hit new benchmarks in physical and emotional strength. Deepika chose the unconventional path of becoming a yoga teacher when it was not so cool to become one in India, almost 2 decades ago, and was the first Indian authorized Ashtanga Yoga teacher to have practiced with Sri K. Patabi Joyce. Deepika has always been a trailblazer, sets new standards in anything she does, and constantly challenges her comfort zones, be it leaving her thriving teaching world in India to follow her heart and love and become a traveling yoga teacher with her now husband and certified Ashtanga Yoga teacher Mark Roberts, to creating a clothing line called Goddess Project, to becoming a first-time mother at the age of 43. Deepika now juggles life between Australia, India, and Bali, Indonesia, where she and Mark have a home. Trubay would not have been possible if it had not been for Deepika, who introduced me to Ashtanga Yoga and to the love of this amazing healing practice in early 2015 that eventually led me to leaving my 15-year in the corporate world in private equity to start this passion project at the age of 40 as a solo woman entrepreneur of making Ashtanga and its teachers accessible to Indians. I'm going to add Deepika now. Guys, just hang on a second while I add Deepika. Hi! You're looking amazing, as usual.
Trying my best with mom life.
It's effortless.
No, there is effort. There is a lot of effort.
How are you?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm at my parents' place, so the internet is a little bit dicey.
Yeah, we did a trial run earlier in the day.
Yes. And then the second thing is my cute baby girl right now is feeding by demand.
So in case you need to.
Yeah. So when she wants me, she needs me, she needs me. There's nothing around it. So
Okay, understood. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to quickly jump in. We left off the last conversation with you telling us how you were the only Indian among the 12, 13 students in the Shala with Sri K. Patabi Joyce. And the reason why Ashtanga became popular with Westerners instead of Indians was the video which had all the senior famous teachers.
Yeah.
And that's what popularized it in the West and not so much in India because there were no Indians in that video. So before I ask you a whole list of questions, I want to ask you, what did it feel like for you to practice in as the only Indian in a shala full of Westerners, ironically in an Indian atmosphere of Mysore?
Firstly, I'd like to clarify that maybe I'm definitely not the first Ashtanga teacher who started with Patabi Joyce. I guess there was all Sharmila Desai, who lives in Goa, but she's,
She's
I
an
guess,
NRI. Yeah.
NRI.
Yeah.
And there was another woman before me. Everybody would speak about her. I think she was part of a girl band. And I think her name, I can't remember who she was. I think her name was Kalyani or something. I'm not really sure. But she had come briefly. Also, there was Maya and Taran who came along,
Later.
after.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe I do think I was one of the first. Yeah.
Okay.
Today's social media, you have to be so careful.
I
So
know.
just,
It's good to clarify that.
yeah.
But in a sense, you were one of the first Indians to have practiced with Patabi Joyce.
Yeah. I mean, there was, Sharad.
Indian teacher.
Yeah. Sharadji was teaching the evening batch, and there was a lot of really, like the local Mysore people who would come. But in the morning batch, which was with Patabi Joyce, there was probably, at that time when I was there was just.
So how was it practicing in a room full of being the only Indian practitioner?
It was very challenging. Physically, I had not associated yoga by then because I was exposed to Shivananda, I was exposed to Hatha Yoga. I was not exposed, there was no internet. So I had not really seen this practice. The only, the way that I'd seen it, I think, I'm not sure back then, or it was much later, was David Smith's book. So I didn't really know what I was getting into. So just to get into that room and just watch all these practices, doing this incredible practice, it was just, for me, it was definitely very, not, I mean, I was just awestruck. I would say I was awestruck. It was challenging, and I had to push myself beyond every physical and mental. I mean, I'm being 100% honest. Even now, trying to go back into that moment and sense that moment instead of just going with the story, is that I was just kind of, just awestruck. I was just inspired. I was just like, this is something which is way beyond my physical capabilities, also mental capabilities, just to be in the room for 2 hours and go beyond your own capacity. It's also a challenge. And just being by yourself, in your early 20s, you don't have any friends, or you're a wanderer, you just walk, you're not part of the whole kind of circle. So it was definitely way beyond my comfort zone, but I've always loved a challenge. I thrive on challenges. And so for me, that's, I think, what got me hooked was that physical challenge and the mental challenge required to persist.
So how has the physical practice of Ashtanga Yoga helped you get past the fear of everything you have aced in your life? Whether it's been your trust broken with people, your heart broken a million times, all the physical and mental challenges that life has thrown your way. But in all of this, very few people know that you were, while you were acing professionally, you were also, going through your own physical and mental, emotional challenges. So how have you overcome those? What has been your strength, and how has Ashtanga helped you?
I think the beauty of this practice is whether you're doing primary, half primary, just a sun salutation A and B, even the most basic thing, there's something about the technique of this practice which is very all absorbing. There's no space for distraction. Even this morning, I had like half an hour or 40 minutes to finish my practice because, I'm feeding my baby on demand. So it's like, I know when she's going to need a feed. I can't time it that it's going to be every 2 hours or 3 hours. When you're feeding on demand, you have to just go with when my baby needs the feed. So it's like, I know I try to finish my practice in half an hour, 5 minutes. So I was like, there was no faffing around, and for me, that is the beauty of this practice. It just is all absorbing. There's something about the technique of drishti, breath, and the flow of the practice, vinyasa. There's no getting in and out. You're just in this complete state of absorption. You know what they call dharana. You know, in the eight limbs of yoga, there's a sense of very deep concentration. And for me, that technique of very, very deep concentration, of connecting the breath and the movement, you know, that thread of the breath to the movement, that is to me the practice. So whether it's primary or it's second or third or whatever it might be, for me, that thread is what really grounds me. You know, and when you're very, very grounded, I feel like you connect to an inner strength. And that's everybody. It's not just me. I know it happens to you, and it happens to everybody who I see in the room, in a Mysore room. I can see in that. That's what connects people. You know, I can see that whether they speak the language or they don't speak the language, they could be a really simple person, or they could be really glamorous, or whatever it might be. None of that matters. You see that they're all connected to that same energy, and for me, that's what helps you. You know, because it just connects you to your own power. And that's why I'm not a teacher who likes to take over power. um, I believe that the practice is the power, and the practice is what is going to heal you, and the practice is what is going to empower you. A teacher is just there to hold the space, you know. So that's my role. My role is to hold space, and is not to be the one in control and feel powerful about it, or to give myself credit. I know I'm going a little bit off the topic, but what I'm saying is a practice gives you that power, you know. And for me, that is the beauty of this practice, which is I do a lot of other forms of movement, and I'm not going to say that I only do yoga. I also do, you know, gymnastic training, handstand training, whatever it might be, dance, but nothing makes me feel as grounded and as connected and as deeply, you know, tuned into myself as practice. So then it gives you that power, you know. You're like, no matter what happens, I can deal with it, and not in an aggressive way. You know, it's just that you just, you know, you believe in your own abilities.
So, you mentioned that you don't you don't take over, if I quote you
Yeah.
correctly, you don't impose beliefs. And as your student, one of the things you used to always say at the start of, when there were new students in the class, saying, I'm not here for your sex and love life advice. And, if you have any physical asana related questions, I'm there. But if you have, a sex life or a love life problem, please go to a shrink.
Financial advice.
Or financial advice.
You know, if you need financial advice, go to Pratima. If you need psychological advice as well, that's not your yoga teacher. You know, of course, it's not just me. I'm talking about, you know, I really feel you have to be true to yourself. If you're playing a role when you're in this room. I'm getting a bit serious here now, but the thing is that I'm very, very clear that I'm just stepping into this space. Every time I step into this space before I'm going to teach, or I call it sharing. It's not that I'm teaching, I'm just sharing what I'm learning from my experience when I practice, which is why it's important for me to practice, right? When I step into this space, I pray, and I just say that, you know, I don't want to be in this space through a space of ego. I want to be just a vehicle. You know, I want to just be there. And I'm not just saying it, I'm really saying what I really believe, you know, and I feel like that's very important. I can't pretend that I have all the answers. You know, if anybody's going to ask me something about psychological advice, I'm not going to give you that advice. I can help you, I can motivate you, I can inspire you, but I can't be the one to give you psychological advice or financial or relationship advice. You know, a lot of yoga teachers actually are the ones who are the most messed up. You know, putting it out there. That's why I teach so much yoga, not because we're perfect. You know, like sometimes my brother or my dad or somebody, and I feel like, wow, you know, they're pretty chilled out without having to do so much. And you know, for me, I feel like I need the yoga. It's what grounds me. So for me, that's the space from where I'm teaching or sharing.
Again, you take a lot of what you've achieved in your life, whether it's personally or professionally. You've really overcome a lot of challenges, mental and physical, but you don't take yourself seriously. And you also do not like the word being called a yoga guru.
Oh
Uh,
no.
You don't you detest that, so can you tell us why do you detest that?
I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm a free thinker. I don't know. I don't believe in labels. This practice works for me and it's an incredible practice, but I'm not a fundamentalist, number one. This is not my religion. Uh, you know, for me, it's a beautiful language, and I'm here to share that language from my experience, but I'm not going to tell somebody that this is the only way to peace. We can all find our own way. Sophia! Oh my God, there's Sophia from Greece. And I feel like to be authentic, you can't take yourself this seriously. If you have to be honest to yourself when you wake up in the morning. Are you as perfect as you pretend to be? If you're not, then it's a lie, right? You're going to take yourself that seriously and say that you're a guru. No, I don't think, there's no way. I'm still evolving. For me, there's so much I have to work on still. And being a mother is really, sometimes I watch my own self and I'm like, this is my guru now. She's teaching me patience. She's teaching me quality of being present. Like, can I spend 20 minutes with her without looking at my phone, without being distracted, without trying to take selfies? You know what I mean? So I don't know. For me, I like to take myself too seriously, because then at some point you're going to have to face yourself and realize that you're making up a story which is not true.
So again, as one of the qualities that I feel like, which is something that personally I feel that you approach everything as a student, as
Yeah,
you don't shy away from yet going and studying with different movement, not just Ashtanga teachers, senior teachers. You've studied with all of them, but with
yeah,
a handstand expert, you'll go and learn from a dance person, or
yeah.
or even learn. Sorry, I'm stuck on my tongue right now. You're making me nervous. But
No,
no, you studied Ayurveda, naturopathy, raw vegans. So you approach everything as a student, as a beginner. Do you want to talk about how that? Where does that come from? Because not
I,
many teachers approach it that way.
I
A
don't know.
lot of people feel like they've arrived and as teachers, and then don't want to learn from someone else.
I don't know. I guess I see my parents, and they're very humble. And it's such a, imagine saying I'm so humble. Firstly, that is pretty funny, right? Like, I have a joke with a friend where, like, we're so humble. It's like, it's almost like, I don't know, it's a bit funny to say that you are humble. But having said that, like, I watch my parents, and they never, um, they just, like, the most generous, the most humble, the most so I've grown up seeing that. So for me, it's very difficult for me. Actually, sometimes I have to work on trying to take myself seriously. you know um, I don't know, I just, like, maybe it's something just natural for me. It's unnatural for me to try to act like a big boss. Un- Unless I'm trying to get you to climb the mountain, for people who come to my retreat.
But as a teacher, you're pretty strict.
Yeah, I'm
Once
strict.
we're in your room, you are very strict. You don't,
Yeah. Because,
your eyes are everywhere. You do not let
yeah,
anyone slack.
I like having a sense of, I like the room to be really sharp. When I'm saying the word sharp, I don't mean like in a sense of like,
Anushka's like,
I
we know.
was like, we know. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I'm joking right now. In the room, if I started to joke, then, you're scary. Yeah. If I started to joke, I would be doing you a disservice, right? Because you're coming to my space to be in that room, to not be distracted. Number one is to get silent and still. Number two, you're in that space because you want to not be, just kind of not be in the world that you're coming from. You want to step into another zone inside yourself. So I'd be doing a disservice if I was too chilled out. It's not that I'm taking myself seriously. I just feel that, like, as a teacher or as a person who's holding the space, that's the word that I would like to use. is I'm that's what I'm standing for, like trying to help you to find a practice and to find a space within yourself which is quiet, for a lack of, I don't want high-fi words, but just a sense of quietness, and that will come if the person holding the space is like a little bit strict, not strict, but is a little bit holding it together.
So, outside of your superlative yoga practice,
No,
you
so far gone.
okay, you have a keen sense in fashion, styling, travel, trekking, photography. And as Anushka says, you're like a really creative person. Your Instagram is goals for many who copy your style. So tell us, where does this creative side come from? Where does the design aesthetic come from?
I'm good with bohemian style. I don't think tehrav, there's a tehrav that you bring into the practice. I like that word. It's so beautiful on Anugraha. Um, I love beauty, and sometimes people, like, I feel also when I step into a space to teach, I make a little bit of effort before coming. Not because it's not because of vanity, but because it's beautiful when you come into a space. Like if you go to a temple, it looks beautiful when when how we decorate with flowers, and I love beauty. I love beauty in everything. I'm stepping out and I see like flowers. I guess that's why, that's again the Indianness is in us, right? Like seeing beautiful marigolds and seeing genda flowers and seeing like just the way we have Indian temples, the subtle beauty. So for me, I'm very attracted to that, which is why, even though, which is why I put in effort, sometimes a lot of effort when I'm doing shoots on, like, for Instagram. It's not just to get likes or something. It's because it's a self-expression for me. And I've always been attracted to this kind of free bohemian lifestyle, and which from a very, like maybe when I was 20 or something, I started going for raves. That was a very different thing back then, that you'd be like out and you'd see people dressed up beautifully, like gypsy skirts. I remember even when I was very young, I used to live in Hyderabad, and there's a lot of gypsies who live here. They're called, I can't remember what they call, lambadas.
Banjaras.
Yeah.
Banjaras.
Yeah, Banjaras. And I remember wandering the streets with a camera back then and taking pictures. And I would be like getting pants made from them. And, like I've always loved bohemian style, So, and then like with all the travel, whether it was Ibiza or Goa or, Bali or Mexico, Brazil, whatever, I like that whole look of putting everything together. So for me, that's something that I like. But if you ask me to dress up like in a black, city corporate look, I'm terrible
That's
at
not
that.
for you.
Not my style. I don't even own a pair of heels. Maybe I have one pair of heels. Yeah, lambadas, exactly. So
Okay.
I mean, one pair of heels, that's it. It's not my aesthetic, but I appreciate it in others, like when you're dressed up, or when I see Anushka or Anugraha, I find it beautiful. But it's not my aesthetic, for me it's bohemian, chappal, slightly distressed looking, like you're not really from a very rich family, you're a little poor. I like that.
Which is the opposite of that, but okay.
I like that whole aesthetic of looking like a bit of a gypsy. I like
So
that a lot.
did something like your brother telling you, are you going to be like in a kurta and your cycle? So did you take that seriously?
Yeah. Like forever. Even now, I don't own like fancy bags. Like I don't have a,
You don't have a single designer bag. I've never seen you carry any designer bag. It's always
like I like putting things together. Like I like to go to a flea market, collect things, whatever. So sometimes, like my family looks at me and they're like sometimes I'm wearing t-shirts which are a bit too distressed, which I've torn to make them look a bit distressed, and they're like, I think that's a bit on the edge, So it's just something that I like. I like a little bit of worn in look.
So I'm going to come to the next question, which is
5'5" for the person asking.
you want to give your weight also while you're at it?
No, please, right now, no. That's
So, your Instagram, while is like a stunning display of asana photography, your captions also speak your heart. So
Yeah.
you've often spoken about, way before that people started speaking about mental health, sexual abuse, anxiety. You've been one of the biggest propagators of mental health.
Yeah.
And of late, you've been speaking about postpartum depression. So, do you want to talk to the viewers about your thoughts on that? Because it's something that is just there's a lot of stigma attached
Yeah.
to speaking about mental health.
Yeah. So, I mean, this I've never spoken about this so honestly, but since you're asking me, I'm speaking about it. So I never knew anything about mental health, very honestly. Um, and maybe a few years back, maybe I was pushing myself a bit too much. We were traveling a lot. We didn't have a house, just kind of teaching a lot on the road. I was working very strongly on my practice. I was doing a lot of handstand training, all of this kind of stuff. And in the middle of the night, I had intense, anxiety or I don't even know what it was. I had no idea because before this, I'd never known what anxiety was. And suddenly in the middle of the night, I had this intense feeling, which I've never had before. I couldn't sleep that entire night. For the next 6 months, I had a lot of, I had a lot of anxiety out of the blue. It was totally out of the blue. I've never, ever, ever, ever in my life experienced it. And so I started reading up a lot on the nervous system and the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, all of this stuff, which actually yoga is completely based on, and I know that Eddie Stern talks about this in his book, the vagus nerve, all of this kind of stuff. So this is more mental health from the space of the nervous system rather than the psychological, aspect. I'm not trained in that, not really delved in that. But I started reading up a lot on the parasympathetic nervous system because I was like somebody like me who's naturally very peaceful. Like I'm the kind of person who wakes up in the morning and loves to look at the trees, like the first half an hour, 45 minutes, I drink my tea. I'm just looking at the trees. I'm looking at mountains when I'm up there. And I know I can connect very deeply to nature, so somebody like me who I've always regarded as being very peaceful, how could I have this, So I started reading up a lot about it. And I realized that maybe I was pushing myself a bit too much. I was not breathing correctly, all the travel, a lot of kind of stuff. So I realized this is something I need to share with people um, because if somebody like me is affected by this, I'm pretty sure a lot of others are. Also, we're living in a world of extreme stimulation. The cell phone, the phone. To me, that is one of the things that I feel, along with, you know, I wouldn't say being competitive, but being pushing yourself a bit too much, being a little bit of a perfectionist. All of these things can push you to the edge, So I feel like that's something I like to talk about because I know how badly it affected me. For the longest time, I worked a lot, coming back to a very calming breath and a lot of restorative. And I use Ayurveda and able to get myself back to being very, very, very calm. And so I know that this works. Something that Eddie again talks about, which is, this kind of, I don't know what he calls it, but he has it on his breathing app. And again, it's something that when I was reading a book, I can't remember what it is. I think it's called The Calm Brain.
The calm brain.
Yeah. And so I started delving a lot of this and using it in my practice, which is, breathing in for a certain count, breathing out for a certain count. And it made a huge difference for me. So it's something that I like to talk about a lot.
So what?
Finding the balance of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system in your yoga practice, which I
So
feel
all of
is
the
very,
forward folds and all of those things.
uh, that's one thing because it really calms your nervous system. Back bend stimulate your nervous system. Yeah, the calm brain,
The calm
exactly.
brain.
And so yin is a perfect way, which is very restorative, but like you can also bring that element into your Ashtanga practice, so if you're trying to breathe in for a count of 5, breathing out for a count of 5, you're not you're kind of staying in a space where you're not overstimulated in your practice, where you're not feeling like you're on edge. You still want to keep your face very calm. So all of this subtle stuff, I think this makes a big difference. Also, the foods. I used to be eating
Yeah, I
a
want to ask you.
raw food,
Yeah.
which is very vata. And I still love raw food, but I would say that now I know when I've tuned into when I need to balance my food. When I'm traveling a lot, I try to eat more grounding food, stuff like this. It's stuff that each person has to figure out for themselves to find balance.
So you found a balance between your yoga practice, breathing, diet,
Time.
meditation, and you also use a lot of you keep posting a lot of meditation tracks.
Yeah.
A viewer had asked, so I'm going to ask you that now. I plan to ask you that later. How does music help you through your practice?
So it's two things. Some days I also like to move, right? So some days I don't have the inspiration. It doesn't come naturally every morning when you're traveling so much. You're trying to take care of yourself. You're trying to take care of the people around you. Um, and some days I need some inspiration, some motivation. So I do use music. On other days when I sense that I'm overstimulated and I don't need to be doing something so intense, I don't need to be having a very hard kind of practice, I'll put on more. I also love Indian chants. I love them. So I'll put on something which is more, like chants. And some days like this morning, I didn't, it was just the sound of the breath. Also, I'm big time into something called binaural beats. I don't know how many people have heard of this. It's called binaural beats.
Okay.
It's very different from music. This is something again that I've been researching a lot. So even with music, something called binaural beats, you can tap into a certain brain wave.
Oh, like the hertz.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
And beta brainwave, something which are very stimulating. This is what the sympathetic nervous system is about, the fight or flight. And when you go into more delta, gamma, it's very, very calming. So you can play with this sometimes, if you go on YouTube, you can find lots of different binaural beats.
Yeah.
If you write gamma or delta, it puts you instantly into a very different state. So this is something that I've been playing around with. And a lot of meditations that I do are also involving this binaural beats and affirmations, a lot of this kind of stuff. And YouTube has amazing stuff on it. So if you go for if you write binaural beats, affirmations, there's a lot of this kind of stuff. And it has a huge impact on the brain. You can really feel the difference. It's not something that you're making up. You can really feel how your brain waves change a lot. You go into a calmer state.
I want to come to two questions, which I'm going to club into one. One is, as somebody who has a huge Instagram following, do you feel at times that you're put to unreasonable standards of whatever you put out there? Like, yes, you need to, think through before you write or post something as responsible, posting. But do you feel that at times that you are set to too high standards, whether it is with respect to your yoga practice or your diet, and sometimes you just have to hide what you have to do because you don't want to get trolled? Like, for example, like there was somebody who said, don't do a handstand near your baby, and it was like or a headstand, you were on a headstand, and you had like a whole set of people saying, oh, you'll fall on the baby, which as a responsible mother, that.
Yeah.
Do you find that that you're set to too high standards with respect to diet and even other things or realms of your life?
Actually, I do have to say that even though I've been trolled a little bit, I've not been trolled as much as I see some other people getting trolled, because I try to stay a little bit away from controversy. I'm not a fan of controversy. Maybe it's a character flaw, unlike my husband. And I prefer not to have to, I don't know, I don't want to be wasting so much time having to give justifications to people who honestly, it's a waste of my time. Right now, having to look after my child, my practice, my own self, and my family, my husband, also my mom and dad. So I wouldn't want to waste that much time trying to justify actions. So sometimes I don't put things out there, which is my truth, right? Which maybe in the morning I wake up, I'm feeling like shit and I'm having a terrible practice. Maybe I won't put it up because I don't want to waste my time. It's more for that than anything else. I love the phone. I love my Instagram following, and I use it as a tool, but I don't want to be obsessed with it. So I do avoid some things, but more because I'm a bit like, I don't want to be wasting my time, to be very honest, right? I want to share my inspiring self. Number two, also because I do believe, I mean, this maybe is, again, like I said, it's a character flaw. I'm admitting to it. I like, if somebody out there is a psychologist, they're going to definitely say that is something I need to work on. And I've been listening to some podcasts about it, and I think I need to work on it. It's like, I love the light. I love the light. Whether it's in myself or it's in others, I love looking at, I can see the light in other people. It's an asset I know I have in myself, that I can really appreciate and see beautiful things in everybody, right? But that also means sometimes I'm willing to overlook some things in
Yes.
myself, right?
Yes.
So sometimes I would not put up something, not because I don't want to be put up to such high standards, but because there's a part of me maybe which is, I'm being so honest about this on social media, but it's maybe because I'm avoiding a shadow in myself. It's maybe coming from that. So I'm introspecting as I'm talking to you, but I'm just saying maybe that is the reason why I would prefer to put out something that inspires you.
So, while you were saying, you said that you see the light. I cannot agree more. One of the things is that you, which you've also admitted, is that a lot of times you tend to overlook. You are someone who does not like situations where one is people talking. You like speaking about experiences. You don't see negative. You don't want to talk of the negative in other, of other people. And even if someone has spoken ill about you, you still find something positive to speak about that person. So I think that's something, how do you always find that positivity?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not, like I said,
I'm
I
not
do.
saying that you're perfect. I'm just
Yeah.
saying
I have
it's.
things I need to work on, but in general, I don't like gossip.
Yeah,
I
that was
don't
the
like,
word I was searching
yeah,
for. Yeah.
I don't like sitting around and talking about somebody else, because I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I have a lot of things I need to work on. So I feel a bit false sitting and talking about other people when I know I need to work on things. Right. So for me, that I just find that it's a waste of time talking and gossiping about other people. And if that person is talking about me, that's their bad karma. It's it's just going to come along, and you know it's it's not going to serve them. So for me, I'd rather just see the good stuff in people. For me, I prefer it like that.
Okay, I'm going to ask you only one controversial question. No. So it's something that you've posted on your Instagram. So it's not something. So way back in 2018, when the whole Me Too movement happened, you wrote about how you, and I think there wasn't a single woman in the world who hadn't been through any form of sexual abuse or catcalling or any of those situations, whether in the corporate world or otherwise. A lot of women have written with respect to the practice now has a lot of teachers where there's an abuse of power, which may not necessarily be in terms of a inappropriate adjustment which is sexual in nature, by a male teacher to a female teacher, and it could be vice versa, a female teacher to a
Yeah.
male student. What is the advice that you give to somebody who continues to go to a teacher who is abusing them, whether in power or with respect to owning their body?
I give this advice to a lot of women who write to me, and I say this over and over and over again, and mostly it's women writing to me, and I say that, the practice is the one you have to give the power to. you know if your teacher is trying to take over the power, whether it's mentally or physically, there is something not right there. A good teacher is one who's going to give you the tools to empower you, and you have to tune into your own power. So I really, really, really strongly believe that women, that own they have to own themselves. Yeah, they have to take over their own power, and every woman has that. We're all, that's why we call shaktis. We're fierce, we're strong, we don't need to take this kind of stuff. So anybody who's listening out there, getting an adjustment which doesn't feel right, and if you're feeling mentally as well, it's not just physical. If you feel somebody is trying to that's Adriana, if you feel like somebody, it's even a mental thing. You have to take over your own power. Of course, you have a teacher, you have to respect them, and especially if you're Indian, that's part of our whole,
Culture.
it's part of our DNA and our that we could like give a lot of respect to our teacher. You might touch their feet, but eventually you have to find your teacher inside you. You have to find that guru inside you, and we all have that. We all have that. We just have to tap into it. So my advice to anybody is that, yeah, of course, your teacher is incredible. I love my teacher. I touch his feet, but eventually I'm the one who the power is within me. I don't need to get it from anybody outside.
So,
Nobody can help you. You finally are the one who's going to help yourself. So that's my advice to anybody out there who's listening.
So even, like a lot of women feel conflicted in situations where I'm asking this question again because there are a lot of women who, have
Yeah.
written it, who feel that, uh, the practice is healing. So this is what is helping them with, either past trauma or to deal with their everyday situations or whatever it may be, or it could be just fitness. And there is only that one teacher who is having control on their body and mind. What do you tell women like this in how to separate the two? How do they
I don't
empower
I
themselves?
don't think you need, I mean, like back in the day when I went to Mysore, I learned the practice. I came back, and this is how it's taught. This is part of the system of the Mysore practice, self practice, actually.
Self practice.
Exactly. I learned the practice. I came back and I practiced by myself for the longest time, you know. So that's part of the practice. Of course, it's very difficult with the discipline. For some people, it's very difficult. They're not that motivated to wake up every morning and have that discipline. If you have the teacher, you're very lucky if you have an amazing teacher that you respect and you really trust. But if you're not able to find that teacher and you find something is not right, listen to your instinct. Your instinct and your gut is normally telling you the truth. I know that people, say the internet is terrible and learning online is terrible, but there's amazing YouTube videos. Some days when I'm not feeling motivated, I'll just put on like a lead primary, or a lead second or whatever it might be, and I'll do that. Or there's like apps. We're in a world where we're very lucky, and of course technology can be a bit annoying, but it is also it's an amazing tool. So you can just find amazing teachers out there. Like, so I'm doing a Bhagavad Gita course online, and I'm able to find incredible teachers. So you just do something, put on the YouTube one, create a space in your own house. Number one, create a little space that helps. you know when you create a little space for yourself where there's no distractions, because that's what you want when you step into a space, right? Create a little altar. Doesn't have to have like a Shiva and Parvati and all of that, but whatever you find is a representative of something symbolic to you and sacred. Create a little space, put a little flower, make that effort, and then just tap into your own energy. Put on, if it put on something, YouTube led primary or whatever practice that you like, and just do it. That nothing is better than this. Just do it. So you don't have to go to these teachers who something within you is feeling is not right. you know
So I'm going to come to one last question that I have, and then I'm going to take the viewer questions. For you, you found spirituality through yoga, but in a lot of ways, you are misrepresented in a lot of ways in terms of only being somebody who has a physical asana practice. But in essence, you're actually trying to share what you are experiencing, the internal,
Yeah.
the stillness. Do you want to talk about that?
Again, it's very abstract, so sometimes I don't know how to put it in words, right? Without sounding cliche, I'm a seeker. I might, so for some people, maybe I'm, they think I'm glamorous or whatever the word might be, I don't know. But I'm a very, from the deepest truth that I can tell you, I'm a very sincere seeker, you know. Nothing for me is more important than my connection with, I don't know how to use the word, but maybe God, the source, divine, universal consciousness, whatever the word might be. For me, this is the most important thing in my life, is that connection. And the practice I do helps me to connect to that, you know. And so when I'm sharing from that space, and what I'm experiencing, like you said, with that internal energy, I'm trying to bring that into the room. And of course, physical practices help, because we are embodied beings. We're not we're people with bodies. And so for us to get into our body and step into our body is the most grounding thing for most people. Maybe for somebody, they can just get up and straight away sit in meditation and just be totally aligned. Maybe for somebody, they can go to work and they don't need anything. But I'm speaking for people like me, right? We're embodied beings, and practices that really connect us, mind, body, spirit, help us to align ourselves, right? So it doesn't have to just be a spiritual thing, but it just helps you to align, be centered, be a better person, be more peaceful, live a life which is more compassionate towards others and towards yourself. And so for me, the tool of the physicality helps me with that, you know. And when it helps me with that, that's the space I'm sharing from. Maybe it's not for everybody, maybe for somebody else, bhakti can be their path straight away, or dhyan yoga, or gyan yoga, like studying the scriptures, that could be your path. Or you could be a sevak, you could be living your life, doing your work, but from a space of doing service, so for everybody that has their own path. For me, this is my path, and I'm sharing from this space. I'm being authentic to who I am. And for me, I'd be doing I really believe everybody's born with a gift, you know. And if we're sharing from what our true gift is, we're going to contribute to the world. If you're just trying to pretend to be somebody else, you're not contributing in any way, So for me, like, I'm contributing by being who I am and sharing from that space. And maybe for somebody else, they don't connect to that, but that's fine. I'm not trying to prove myself to anybody, and I'm not trying to get everybody on my, on
On your
my,
bandwagon.
yeah, on connect. It's people who connect to me, they're going to come.
So, do you feel that for you, because you had that rock climbing accident,
Yeah.
and you lost movement
Yeah.
for 2 years,
Right.
do you feel that you're constantly, like, because something that was given to you was
Right.
taken away?
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel that movement will always be part of your life, and that is where you found your healing, which is what you want to share. Is
Yeah.
that, am I correct in that assessment?
I think it's changing a bit now for me, because I feel like we're constantly evolving
Yeah,
beings.
yeah.
You know, what I was maybe 20 years back, maybe I'm not exactly that same person. And again,
It
to
would
be
be scary if you would be the same person, right?
exactly. Um, I wouldn't be authentic if I was trying to constantly be the person I was 20 years back. So for me now, it's changing. I feel like some days, of course, I'm still very much in love with my physical practices, but maybe it will change. Maybe in 5 years, all I need to do is look at my child and, tap into that. Or I don't know, something else. I don't know, but I'm willing to be honest to myself and see where my journey goes, and I feel like everybody should be like that. So even though physicality is a very important aspect of my practice at the moment, I'm also very attracted to music. I'm very attracted to chanting. I'm very attracted to meditation. So I do see myself eventually even going in that direction, having more uh, chanting practices, more meditative practices, incorporating that more and more, not just physicality. But at the moment, I still love my physical practice. So I think it's an evolving space.
Okay, so I'm taking on the viewer questions. In the meantime, the ones who are alive, please type your questions. We have 2 questions, and then I'm going to ask the questions that you guys ask. So
Yeah.
Nisha says that she finds her practice is ultimately when you get onto the mat, the physical practice helps her to have that inner movement of peace and calm. But she's had a hamstring injury.
Okay.
And so she finds it difficult for her to get onto the mat and do a practice. What is the advice that you would give somebody like her? She has a
Uh,
torn hamstring.
you can totally work around the hamstring injury. It's something that I see a lot in, you know, I see it in it's a yoga injury I see with the asana practice. I would say on a very physical level, instead of over arching your spine, try to tuck under a little bit. You can find ways around, and also instead of just having the approach of stretching your hamstrings, try to also work on strengthening them. Yeah. So I would say instead of constantly extending your spine, think about slightly tucking under your pelvis. That's number one in the forward folds. Number two, maybe you can have a little bit lesser of forward folds, a little bit more of back bending. That's number two. Number three, work on strengthening your hamstring instead of trying to stretch them. Number four, what I would say is this is something I learned from my injury. Just because you have one part of your body which is hurting doesn't mean you stop practicing. You can still work around it. So instead of constantly trying to stretch that hamstring muscle, doing this and that around it, maybe for a while just try to rest that muscle, which doesn't mean not practicing. It means finding a way around it. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. Like I said, on a very physical level, try to tuck under a little bit instead of overarching your spine. You don't have to bend your knees. That sometimes stretches the hamstring more. Think about tucking under your pelvis. Number three, try to strengthen your hamstring. That really helps. So I've seen that helps with a lot of students. So I hope that answered your question, Nisha.
Nisha, you can send a DM to Deepika post this. Um, Eva says, everyone has flaws. What is the one flaw that your practice has helped you overcome?
Laziness. I swear. I'm the biggest procrastinator in the world. Not lying. So definitely, like it's helped me overcome that.
Is it, with Mark constantly upside down, is it difficult to just loll in bed?
I have to spend a lot of time in bed now actually because I'm feeding like I don't know how many times a day. So uh, I mean I'm spending a lot of time sitting in bed now. Let's just put it like that, feeding. But yeah, I mean, when your partner is constantly moving, there is a certain thing that you feel like, okay, even I should be doing this, right? So that helps. But also, I know that when I get up and I do something, I always feel much better. So it's, as simple as that. I know if I finish my practice, I'm going to feel like a better, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be in a better mood. So it always leads me to a nice quiet space where I'm much kinder, much nicer. So that's my big, it helps me, that keeps me motivated.
So Neha says, what does your food plate? What is? I'm just rephrasing the question. What is your food plate throughout the day? Is it only plant based?
No. Plant based, yeah, practically plant based, like 99% plant based.
What is the 1%?
I do have eggs. Um, occasionally, once in a while, if I'm traveling and if I'm somewhere where I can't, I'll once in a while I'll eat fish. But primarily plant-based, 99%. And I love vegetables. I love lots and lots of vegetables. And that's why, like in India, it's perfect, right? We have so many different sabzis. So it's like my plate is always lots of sabzi, dal, and some grain. It's very simple. I'm not like, it's very basic, but it's very clean. I eat very clean. I try not to put in things which are processed, packaged. I try to, if possible, I try to make the food myself. Right now, it's sometimes it's a bit of a challenge with time, but I always eat very clean. I don't use oils which I know are not good. I use mostly coconut oil, so it's very clean food.
So you never cheat on your meals?
No, no, no. Once a week, I eat whatever I want.
So what is that?
Which is number one, I love samosas. Like, love samosas. I'm not I'm not crazy about sweets, but I really love like savory. So samosa, popcorn, and I'm not talking about like popcorn which is fat free and this and that, but just like a full proper normal popcorn, and just whatever, toast with lots of butter, cheese, all this kind of stuff. Cheese, I love cheese. So like a normal person, it's like once a week,
I've seen
whatever.
you wolf down many parathas and
Yeah. In Rishikesh. Like 5 parathas for breakfast. Yeah, for people who don't know me, I eat a lot like a horse. Somebody once said to me, "You eat like a horse."
Yeah,
Samosas at the airport. Yeah, exactly. I love samosas at the airport.
So Vinay says, what is it that you see in modern yoga which needs to change? Are we focusing less on the other limbs of yoga?
It's a very, I don't know how to answer this question. It's really sometimes somebody who has a very physical practice on the outside could have a deep state of concentration on the inside, and that could be their form of meditation. So I'm not judging somebody who has a very physical approach, right? However, I do feel meditation is something which sometimes is overlooked, especially at the end of the practice. Like I feel, you just finished this beautiful asana practice. You tapped into something which is beautiful, quiet, and so there's no hurry to rush. So, I feel like meditation is something which everybody can benefit from. And I feel everybody should start trying to have a meditation practice, even if it means 5 minutes. Doesn't have to be like a 20-minute, 1 hour, just 5 minutes. Just switch off your phone and just, tap into quietness with your breath or whatever style of meditation you do. Also, I love chanting because I feel like it for me, it's almost like pranayam. So I love chanting, like especially the proper authentic way. So it's something I feel like also can be brought in more and more. Pranayam is something incredible again. And so I feel like all these practices are just gonna make you feel much better. So don't just rely only on your asana practice. Meditation, and it's something that you can bring into your normal lifestyle as well. Just meditation, even in the middle of your day, you can just sit. Even if you're in an, whatever, you're having a busy day, you can just sit with yourself for 5 minutes, switch your phone off, tap into that quietness, or all these things can really help make you much more calmer. So I feel these are things that you can add in. So
So
it's not
on
yeah.
that note, because we have only 50 seconds, and I
Yeah.
want to thank you, Deepika, so much for these 2 sessions, and I'm gonna pull you in once Devi gets a little bigger
Yeah.
to do another chat with us. And thank you so much for sharing so freely and honestly. It's been such a pleasure, and I wish you all the happiness as you take on this new chapter of motherhood.
How sweet.
And
Thank you.
thank you so much.
And I want to wish the same to you. Thank you so much for creating this incredible platform. And also, you're doing an incredible job. So I really want to congratulate you on that.
It wouldn't
And
have been possible without you.
no, but I really feel like you're very hardworking and it's incredible. You're really, really bringing this, and I'm sure everybody's getting so inspired.